Do you spend more time trying to write a good screenplay than actually writing your screenplay? In this video, I'm gonna show you everything you need to hear to get off your ass and stop putting off your next movie script. Let's start with number one. When I was working on my first screenplay, I spent at least like 6 months just trying to brainstorm different ideas and then shooting them all down, trying to make them original. I came up with a story about a teenager with social anxiety, and many of his issues stemmed from his domineering, overbearing mom who likes his older brother more than she likes him. After I finished writing it, the strangest thing happened. I have an IMDb list of all the movies I want to watch. Every time I want to watch a new movie, I'll scroll through and just pick at random. So I picked one out. And as I watched, I noticed a few things. The main character, teenager with social anxiety. His mother, very domineering and very overbearing. And oh yeah, she has a preference for his older brother. This film was made in 1980. I had never even heard of it, and somehow I pretty much stole it 40 years later. Stop trying to be original. Everything has already been done. Your idea is not what makes your writing unique. It's about how you execute it. You bring your own experiences to the movie and write it in your own voice. But this should excite you because now you can go and take a concept for a movie that you already love and just rewrite it in your own words. Like take John Wick, for instance, if you've ever heard of that. A retired assassin with exceptional skills is forced back into killing people because his old life comes back to haunt him. The Equalizer, anyone? Like, I would suggest doing this as an exercise. Take the concept of your favorite movie. Let's say it's American Beauty, and in case I need to tell you, that's my favorite movie. So a man who has given up on his life is suddenly reawakened when he falls for his daughter's best friend. Although, like, surface level, the concept is pretty concrete, once you start writing a full-on screenplay, that's where you put your own spin on things. Maybe you make it a horror movie instead, or you turn it into a mother falling for her son's friend, or whatever weird stuff you think of. Whatever it is, again, that weird stuff, your personal touch, is what makes it unique. And it doesn't even need to be a good idea. And that's actually the next piece of advice I have for you, that if you follow, you'll stop overthinking your writing so much. Think of your first draft like the first time you tried cooking something new. You have no idea what to do. You have to cook it for the first time so that you can make mistakes, get feedback, and then fix it the next time. If you're so afraid of it tasting bad that you never cook, then you'll never improve because there's nothing to improve. The only time you're writing is during the first draft, when you're going from complete zero blank page to actually filling it up with words. Every draft after that, you're not writing anymore, you're rewriting. There's no such thing as a good writer. Listen to some of these quotes from some of the world's best writers. The first draft of anything is shit. That was Ernest Hemingway. I'm writing a first draft and reminding myself that I'm simply shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build sandcastles. Jordan Peele. The easiest thing to do on earth is to not write, but the hardest thing to do is write a good first draft because the first draft will always be terrible. William Goldman. All of these famous writers say their first drafts are bad, and that's after years of experience. So if they're not even able to write well on the first go, why would you be? You need to stop trying so hard to be a good writer. The biggest thing that stops you from writing is your fear of writing badly. And this is in direct conflict with your goal of writing well. If you instead deliberately strive to write badly, you won't filter yourself with judgment and criticism. Instead, you embrace that you're going to write badly, but you won't be able to do this if you don't fix point number 3. It's something that we all deal with on a daily basis, and it's almost impossible to avoid. But doing so will make you much more confident in your ability to become a successful screenwriter. I'm in my room getting ready for my daily writing session. I make the mistake of opening Instagram. And since the FBI agent monitoring my every move has learned that I like screenwriting, my entire homepage is flooded with content about screenwriting. The first thing I see is a story about a college student whose short film was picked up by Darren Aronofsky. This kid is 19 years old. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought this was awesome. I was actually happy for him, but there was also a part of me that was jealous, angry even. But then I remembered something. There's tons of people out there who got like their big break much later in life. Ridley Scott was 40 when he made his first feature. Alfred Hitchcock, he made most of his biggest movies after he was 54. So it's on both ends of the equation. That doesn't help either because you're still basing your own success on somebody else's. The truth is, you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. Famous screenwriters, friends in the industry, your 5-year-old nephew who just finished writing a book. If you want to compare yourself to anyone, compare yourself to yourself. Focus on your own progress. All that matters is, are you taking the action you need to take? Someone else's success doesn't make a difference to yours. You just know about it because you saw it. So just pretend you didn't see it and don't let it discourage you from like pursuing your own goals. And point number 4 is exactly what you need to do this. How often do you come home feeling drained from work, just wanting to relax, where writing is the last thing that you want to do right now? Even me sometimes, I'll start doing the dishes just because I tell myself that it needs to get done before I start writing. But it's just a means to escape, isn't it? This will be the thought pattern, or it'll pretty much. It'll be like, I still need to write today. Oh, well, before I do that, I can go do the dishes. The dishes are not done. I need to do them. Then I'll realize what I just did, that I had the impulse to write, wanted to go do the dishes, and I'll make myself go and write anyway. There's at least one 10 to 15 minute block in your day that you could be doing something else. In this case, you could be writing. And I know, 10 minutes, it sounds pointless, but like I always say, it's better than not writing at all. Stop wasting your time doing things less important than writing. There is a huge difference between wanting to be a writer and being a writer. Only the difference is not what people think it is. The difference is point number 5. Most people think that a difference is success, that you're not a successful screenwriter until you've sold your own screenplay. This perspective is way too focused on the results. The real difference between a writer and an aspiring writer is just that one writes and the other doesn't. Think of the daily habits of screenwriters who have already made it. You know, they're probably writing every single day. They're not saying to themselves, oh, I don't have any motivation. I'll start writing when I have more confidence. They just write because they're writers. Let's say you had no idea who Quentin Tarantino was, and you put him in a room with some random guy who just decided to write his first screenplay ever. Both of them are sitting at their desks writing, but in that moment, is Quentin any more a writer than the other guy simply because more people know who he is? Stop identifying yourself as an aspiring writer. If you keep thinking of yourself as an aspiring writer, that's just another way of saying that you're not a writer. If you want some help with improving your ability to write, book a free call with me using this link below. Stop drawing success from the results you've acquired or failed to acquire. Just evaluate the actions you take. Are you writing every single day? If you are, then you're a writer. But if not, start. Thinking about writing or wanting to write does not count as writing. What's cool about identifying as a writer is that it completely changes your perspective on the writing process. And if you can view writing this way instead, you'll be one step closer to finishing your screenplay. I know I'm gonna get hate for this, but imagine you go to the doctor and he diagnoses you with ADHD. You're never gonna be able to focus on anything again, and it's not because you have ADHD. It's because the doctor told you that you have ADHD. Every time you try to focus, if you struggle, you'll just think, well, I was diagnosed with ADHD. That means I can't focus. There's no point in trying. And you just stop because not only do you have trouble focusing, but now you have a label that you know you can identify it with. When you try writing and you hit a wall, it doesn't take long for you to say, uh-oh, I have writer's block. And suddenly, rather than trying to move through it, you just tell yourself, no, I have writer's block right now. I'm not gonna be able to write anything anyway. I should probably just stop and go back and be a plumber and then change my dog's tires. I don't know where that was going. The only thing that stops you from writing is the fear of failure. This is especially true with writer's block because you're not blocked. It's not like your brain has like an idea limit or something like, oh, you've exceeded your maximum allotment of ideas today. I'm no longer allowing you to think anymore. Like, no. It's just a matter of which thoughts you choose to listen to. Is it the thoughts that say you're not good at writing, or do you listen to your creative intuition and just write anyway? Just like ADHD isn't the problem, writer's block isn't the problem. I know writing is hard, but it's supposed to be. That's what separates successful screenwriters from aspiring writers. Because if you can persist through it, you'll make it. To do so, you need to understand this next point. I go back and forth with insomnia. You know, I'll be sleeping fine for a while, then one night, I'll just toss and turn for hours on end before falling asleep, if I even do. Then it'll happen again 1 or 2 nights in a row. And now I'm starting to associate sleep with anxiety, frustration, fear even, and the nights after, it just gets worse. The closer it gets to bedtime, the more those feelings start to creep back up. I start to think about all those horrible emotions I was experiencing the past few nights, and I actually start getting afraid to go to sleep. By struggling so much to make every word perfect, or force creativity out of yourself, you've made it a habit to feel negative emotions when you write. Eventually, this becomes all you associate with writing. You start to remember nothing but the pain you feel so much that you don't want to do it anymore. You hate writing and you don't even realize it. Now, I'm not saying you inherently don't like screenwriting or that you aren't actually passionate about it, but why would anyone deliberately put themselves through something like that? You need to rewire your brain to enjoy the process of writing. Otherwise, you'll never overcome point number 8. Who do you think will be a better piano player? The person who has read every book about playing piano, watched every tutorial, taken every course, but never actually played before? Or the person who has taken one course in his whole life, but has spent 10,000 hours actually practicing? I can't even tell you how much time I've probably spent just trying to learn from the routines of famous writers. Honestly, I still do sometimes, but I was struggling so hard to finish a script, I just read up about how others do it. From Stephen King writing 2,000 words a day to writing the whole thing by hand like Quentin Tarantino, I've seen it all. But it's just kind of like comfort food, you know? Like, it's like a way to reassure myself that every writer has a different process and different things work for different people. Only I wasn't figuring out what worked for me. So I finally just said screw it and tried my own thing. And from there, I went from hardly being able to finish one draft to writing 3 different scripts in a couple of weeks. Granted, these were horrible drafts that weren't even formatted properly. I still finished. And I did it in record time because I stopped trying to learn what other people were doing, and I just finally sat down and did something myself. I hope this video is helping to motivate you to write, but unfortunately, watching this video is not writing. All the writing advice in the world won't help if you don't actually put it to use. Trust me, I get it. I've read screenwriting books too, whether it's Save the Cat, Story, Adventures in the Screen Trade. None of it will matter if you don't actually put your own writing into action. Now, look, I have no problem with you sitting here, watching my videos, giving me a view, and, potentially subscribing to the channel. At some point, you need to go and sit down and actually apply what I'm saying to you. I'm not saying to stop learning. You just don't want to fall into the trap of productive procrastination where you spend all this time learning the craft and trick yourself that it's actually helping you. Instead, use the learning to fuel your writing. When you're reading one of these books or watching a video, implement what you learned from it. Let's say you watch my video on writer's block where I talk about the Write Forever drill, and feel free to watch it here. Shameless plug, I know, but it's there. Don't just watch it and do nothing. Go and try it yourself. Whatever project you're working on, go implement the Talk Forever drill and see if it helps. If not, oh well, I mean, you still gave me a view, right? If it does, you just solved a problem and made writing a little easier for yourself.